War is expensive. Trillions of dollars spent on weapons, equipment, soldiers, and operations. The government tells you it's necessary for national security, for freedom, for protecting democracy. But here's what they don't tell you. While taxpayers fund the wars and soldiers fight them, a small group of corporations and individuals make fortunes that last for generations. War is the most profitable business in human history, and the people running that business never send their own children to fight. The defense contractors, 5 companies dominate the U.S. defense industry: Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, and General Dynamics. These aren't just businesses. They're profit machines fueled by war. The numbers. In 2023, these 5 companies had combined revenue of over $200 billion. Most of it came from government contracts paid with your tax money. Lockheed Martin alone made $67 billion. Their profit margin is around 10%. That's $6.7 billion in pure profit from selling weapons. When war spending increases, their stock prices soar. When conflicts escalate, their executives get bonuses. When peace talks start, their lobbyists push to kill the deals. The revolving door. Defense contractors don't just sell to the government. They are the government. Over 400 former Pentagon officials now work for defense contractors. Over 300 former defense contractor executives now work at the Pentagon. The Secretary of Defense approves weapons contracts, then retires to the board of a defense contractor. The general who planned military operations becomes a consultant for Raytheon. They write the military budgets, approve their own contracts, then profit from the spending they authorized. It's not corruption in the traditional sense. It's the system working exactly as designed. The war profiteering cycle. Here's how it works. Step 1. Create the threat. Intelligence agencies and think tanks funded by defense contractors publish reports warning about enemies, dangers, and gaps in military capability. Step 2. Politicians amplify the threat. Campaign contributions from defense contractors flow to senators and representatives. Those politicians hold hearings demanding more military spending. Step 3. Award the contracts. The Pentagon orders new weapons systems, often without competitive bidding. Cost overruns are routine. A fighter jet that was supposed to cost $70 million ends up costing $150 million. Step 4. Extend the conflict. Wars that were supposed to last months drag on for decades. Every year of war is billions more in contracts. Afghanistan was a 20-year war. Iraq was supposed to be quick. Both became endless conflicts that cost trillions and generated decades of defense contractor profits. Who pays? The defense budget for 2024 is $860 billion. That's 40% of global military spending. We spend more on the military than the next 10 countries combined. Where does that money come from? Your taxes. Even if you don't pay federal income tax, you pay through inflation when the government borrows and prints money to fund military operations. The average American household contributes about $7,000 per year to military spending. Over a lifetime, that's $500,000 per family going to fund wars and weapons contracts. Who dies? Over 7,000 American soldiers died in Iraq and Afghanistan. Over 50,000 were wounded. Hundreds of thousands came home with PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, and disabilities. Those soldiers weren't the children of defense contractor executives. They weren't the kids of senators voting for war. They were working class and middle class Americans who joined the military for education benefits, healthcare, and stable income. The people who profit from war never send their own families to fight. The burden of death is carried by the poorest Americans. The profits go to the richest. The private military industry. Beyond the traditional defense contractors, a new industry emerged. Private military companies. Blackwater, now called Academy, is the most famous. DynCorp, Triple Canopy, and dozens of others operate in conflict zones worldwide. These companies provide soldiers for hire. During the Iraq War, private contractors outnumbered U.S. troops at times. They did the same jobs as soldiers but got paid 5 to 10 times more. And that money came from government contracts. Eric Prince, founder of Blackwater, became a billionaire, selling mercenaries to the U.S. government. His company got billions in no-bid contracts while paying minimal taxes by registering offshore. When Blackwater contractors killed civilians, they faced no accountability. When soldiers committed the same acts, they faced courts martial. Private military companies get the profits without the oversight. The reconstruction contracts. War doesn't just destroy. It creates opportunities for connected companies to rebuild what was destroyed using taxpayer money. In Iraq, billions in reconstruction contracts went to companies like Halliburton, KBR, and Bechtel. Vice President Dick Cheney was Halliburton's CEO before taking office. Then, Halliburton got billions in Iraq contracts. Much of that reconstruction was never completed. Schools and hospitals that were supposed to be built exist only on paper. But the money was spent, and the profits were taken. The banks. War is expensive, and governments borrow to fund it. Those loans come from banks, and banks make fortunes on interest payments. World War I and World War II created generational wealth for banking families. They financed both sides of conflicts, ensuring profit regardless of who won. Today, when America borrows to fund military operations, banks buy government bonds and collect interest. The more we spend on war, the more debt we take on, the more interest banks collect. It's not just American banks. International banks profit from financing all sides of global conflicts. War is the most reliable business for institutional lenders. The oil companies. Many modern conflicts happen in or near oil-rich regions. Iraq, Libya, Syria, Yemen all have significant oil reserves or strategic importance to oil transportation. When regime change happens, when governments fall, when chaos erupts, oil companies negotiate favorable contracts with whoever takes power. The Iraq War was sold as removing a dictator and finding weapons of mass destruction. But oil companies got access to Iraqi oil fields that had been closed to them for decades. ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP, and Shell all secured contracts in post-invasion Iraq. The war cost trillions in taxpayer money. The oil profits went to private companies. The technology sector. Modern warfare depends on technology. Surveillance systems, drones, cyber weapons, artificial intelligence, satellites, all provided by tech companies under government contracts. Palantir, founded by Peter Thiel, builds data analysis systems for military and intelligence agencies. Their valuation exploded based on defense contracts. Microsoft, Amazon, and Google all compete for Pentagon cloud computing contracts worth billions. These companies build systems for warfare while presenting themselves as innovative tech leaders. The line between Silicon Valley and the defense industry disappeared. Tech companies are now weapons manufacturers, just with better branding. The pharmaceutical industry. War creates casualties. Casualties need treatment. Treatment requires medicine, and pharmaceutical companies profit from every soldier injured and every veteran medicated. PTSD treatment, pain management, antibiotics, vaccines, all provided to the military at prices negotiated in contracts that are rarely disclosed to the public. The VA healthcare system spends billions annually on pharmaceuticals. Every war creates a new generation of patients requiring decades of medication. Who doesn't profit? The soldier who lost his legs doesn't profit. The taxpayer funding the war doesn't profit. The Iraqi or Afghan civilian whose home was destroyed doesn't profit. The small business owner whose taxes go to military spending instead of infrastructure doesn't profit. The student whose college funding was cut to pay for defense spending doesn't profit. The families burying their children don't profit. The communities devastated by war don't profit. Only the corporations, executives, and investors positioned to extract wealth from conflict actually profit. The permanence of war. Here's the dark truth. The defense industry needs war to survive. Peace is bad for business, so they ensure war never ends. Think about it. We've been in Afghanistan for 20 years, Iraq for 20 years, Syria for over a decade. We have troops in over 150 countries. We're always in conflict somewhere. That's not accident. That's design. Permanent war means permanent contracts, permanent profits, permanent wealth extraction from taxpayers. Every time peace seems possible, a new threat emerges. Every time military spending might decrease, a crisis demands more investment. The system is designed to perpetuate itself, and the people profiting from it have the money and power to ensure it continues. The bottom line: when politicians tell you we need to increase military spending, ask who profits. When they tell you we need to intervene in another country, ask who gets the contracts. The soldiers who fight aren't getting rich. The taxpayers funding it aren't benefiting. The citizens of war-torn countries aren't prospering. But defense contractors, private military companies, banks, oil companies, and tech firms are making generational wealth. War isn't about security, it's about profit. And the people profiting from it will never stop pushing for more conflict, because that's how they maintain their power and wealth.